It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. We're a week from Christmas. Woo-hoo. Yay! All right. So, interesting call we had last hour was we were talking about automation, and it was all relating to DOGE, DOGE, government efficiency. And we had mentioned that we hope that the incoming president doesn't have the same opinion of the Department of Government Efficiency as he has for the Longshoremen's Union, where he talked about the fact that the savings of automation doesn't make up for the loss of jobs.
Right.
We hope there's more consistency from Trump on it. We had a guy who called and tried to compare automation to slavery, which was just bizarre.
Yeah.
But, you know, everything here, I want to put it under a bigger umbrella because there is a total lack of perspective of where we are as a society now compared to where we were and I'll say 200 years ago. All right?
All right.
Let's go back to 1824.
Mm-hmm.
People have no perspective. We live in the bubble. We really do live in the bubble of today.
Yeah.
When I read the book on the, I can't think of the name of it, Lewis and Clark Expedition, I don't know what the exact name of the book was. This is about 20 years ago. I remember reading it going, wow. And they were talking about in the late 1700s that the one thing that has not been passed down through history, the thing, and it's tough to pass, even though it's written down, the emotion of the mindset of people has not been passed down to modern day folks, and that was the fear of dying. Even at a young age, the fear, the terror that if you hurt yourself, if you cut yourself bad, people died.
Mm-hmm.
Infections, there was no antibiotics. You know, just in medicine alone. You know, we complain about the pharmaceutical companies, but for God's sakes, if they weren't around, there is a total, complete lack of perspective, and this also goes back to the health insurance company, the poll that we did on the young people. 41% believe that the assassination murder of Brian Thompson, the health insurance company executive, was justified. 41% of people under the age of 30, that is.
Yeah. 18 to 29.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's completely insane. There's a complete and total lack of perspective or reality about where we were as human beings and where we have come today, and all of it's due to technology and automation. And every generation fights automation and says if we do the automation, then all society is going to go to hell. And the exact opposite has happened. The quality of life that we have compared to any time, in history, and you go back 100 years or you go back 200 years, and you look at how long man has been around, it's a very, very short time, and the massive infusion of technology has given us a quality of life you can't imagine. You go through, medicine. Oh, by the way, I'm glad that Robert Kennedy Jr. now is all on board for the polio vaccine. That was good to hear. And when Trump said that the other day, I think I said to you off the air, I said, oh, okay, he's old enough to know people who had polio. just like I'm old enough to know people who had polio. I had relatives who had polio. I had one uncle who had no use of his arm because of polio. And so Trump is, but even Kennedy's old enough too, by the way, because he's 70. So he's old enough. The generation before him, polio was all over the place before that vaccine came in. But, we tend to look at, we tend to have no perspective of history. When you think about it, remember I told you about that buddy who I knew, the guy who I knew who I kicked out of my vehicle one day. I said, "Get the hell out of my car, you communist." Good friend of mine, old good friend of mine, who worked for me. And remember I told you he took urban planning and said nobody should be driving cars, nobody should be doing, everybody should be living not in a house, but basically he went to Berkeley for urban planning, liberal urban planning. Well, he's moving from the West Coast to Europe because they don't have it down and there's too many cars and cars are evil. Cars are one of the greatest inventions ever. Do you know how many lives cars have saved?
Oh, yeah.
Because we don't have horses running on the street and horses and wagons with manure dropping into the dirt and then being mixed up into the dirt and dried and then going into the atmosphere, going into the air. Think about it. The modern sewage treatment plants that we have today. You know how many lives have been saved by that? And when you look at it, and as I said, in case you just tuned in now, when I watched, and it was a History Channel, was it The Men Who Built America? Carnegie, Rockefeller, I can't even think of all the rest of them.
The Rothschilds and the Colonel with his wee
the
bitty eyes.
The Rothschilds, and the Colonel.
It was 11 herbs and spices that have you craving it nightly.
And I was looking at the actors that were, portraying, and the homes that they were in and everything else. And the houses were big and all that. And they were all drinking alcohol. Like, it reminded me of a episode of Law and Order after they, something, the Law and Orders like from 2000 on they weren't drinking as much. It wasn't like the original one with Adam
They
Schiff.
were hiding it.
Yeah, they were doing coke on the side, so they didn't want anybody to see. Okay, did we win the case? Okay, over.
Why should go to the bathroom every 15 minutes? Yeah.
But it was when I watched that, and I said, I'll never forget. I went, wow, and I started reading some books on those same industrialites who were worth like Elon Musk worth kind of money. And I realized that because of technology, we all live like billionaires did 150 years ago. We have, except for the real estate and maybe more access to trains that they have, we live the life of a billionaire. That's what technology and automation has done. Yet every generation fights it as if it's going to destroy society, and it does the exact opposite. And you can go back in history and you can see every single massive jump in technology. There was fear-mongering. It happened when nobody's going to be working by the time we get to 2000.
Right. Well,
it's all going to be it's not
remember
going to be,
the whole thing with the 3D printer?
Yeah.
Well, manufacturing was just going to end because you'll just be able to 3D print everything. No, not really.
No.
And so, but also, when you go back to vehicles, cars, and then the interstate system, not just the freedom of being able to travel, but shipping by truck, getting everything you need. Say to someone, you're only going to eat if you go and grow it on your land and hunt it. That's the only way you're going to eat. Well, there's no way. Are you kidding me? They resist the advancement of technology, in the populist mode, but reality dictates that they participate at every single level. They take advantage of all the conveniences that we have. You think about pharmaceuticals, not just the technology that brings about whatever drug or treatment it might be, but then it's delivered, and we have how many different, in metro areas, how many different places we can go to buy the medicine that helps us, both over the counter and prescription. I mean, within 3/4 of a mile, I have 4 pharmacies. 4. All major brand. 2 of the same brand. Which is kind of mind-boggling, but it's true. And I look at that and I think to myself, because my dad did that. He was a truck driver after his military career.
I have 6.
Yeah. And my dad does this second career as a truck driver for a major pharmaceutical company delivering to pharmacies. And so you think about, without the technology to first invent and bring about those treatments, but also the technology that brings about everything, delivers everything we need. Even you don't even have to get off the couch anymore. Well, you have to go to the door. We're working on that. By the way, there's actually a service. There's actually a service now as a part of the Walmart Plus thing. I don't know if it's still in beta testing or not, where they come in and put the groceries away for you. Now, if they'll just cook it, I'd be great.
Well, that drone service may be on hold for a little bit.
Maybe. It's scaring a few folks. But you can have it, even your pharmaceuticals can be delivered. Because I always think of those who don't have the physical ability. I have a special needs daughter. I have elderly parents. And if you don't have the physical ability to get what you need, to go get what you need, then the technology that delivers it to our door, to me, is amazing and life-saving.
Yeah, and when I mentioned the guy I know who's moving to Europe, because they didn't do it good enough in California, urban renewal, so he wants to go to a place in Europe where there are, because he wants cars completely eliminated. He's got the Al Gore bizarre, insane opinion that cars are the worst thing ever invented. Well, what was the alternative?
Right.
Back then. I mean, there's a complete and total lack of perspective in our society to the point where you could say, is it willful ignorance because we're so spoiled? When you look at it, I don't know what I want to do. I'm trying to figure out what my career was going to be. 200 years ago, you were a farmer.
Yeah.
There were no other options for 98% of the population. You were a farmer.
Yep, you worked the land. And honestly, I think it is. I think the convenience that it affords so many people without the full consideration of what it would take if you had to go get that stuff yourself. If you had to go, first of all, plant, which we do as a hobby. Now, we eat a lot of free vegetables. Well, the work isn't free. The time, spend money, and the seeds. But that's a hobby. It's not necessary. I have a grocery store, in fact, multiple grocery stores within a mile of my house. I can go and get things very cheaply. But it's a great hobby. I can go fish, I can go hunt, and I can bring home meat. But I can also go to the grocery store. And how many people put that into perspective and say, what would I have to do without the conveniences? What would I have to do to eat? Well, you wouldn't have a job. You'd spend it all your time would be spent on hunting and gathering. And I can hear it now because inevitably we get the same, one or two people. Well, maybe we need to go back to that. No, we don't. No, we don't. We actually don't.
No, I am not going back to farming.
Right. No, it's not going to happen.
No.
Most people won't do it.
No, I don't.
Many people can't do it.
I do not want to use an outhouse.
Exactly. Well, don't knock it until you try it. But
you think about it. Just think about modern plumbing, electricity, all these things that make our lives, and we have no appreciation. We take all this for granted, and that's why you have people that generically, this guy, he runs a healthcare insurance company, murder him.
Mm-hmm. I don't like the way they do things, just generically.
Generically, right, because there's no specific incident. Just murder them. Yeah. This is what we become as a society. Absolutely. But when you have no perspective of history, then you are much easier to brainwash.
Well, when there is no appreciation for life, then you also don't appreciate the value of that somebody in their life puts into the work, right? That has to be done to bring you conveniences.
And the people that demand perfection, I guarantee, are the ones that never deliver it.
Exactly.
866-90 Red Eye.
This morning's USDA Farm Report is brought to you by Howe's Products. Tested, trusted, guaranteed since 1920.
Wintry weather, the highlight of this week's nationwide forecast. USDA meteorologist Brad Rippey.
In recent days, we have seen a veritable parade of storms moving ashore all the way from central California to the northern Rockies and Pacific Northwest.
With impressive snowpack totals in western mountain ranges and significant valley rainfall. For this week,
at least initially, we will continue to see a rather active weather pattern. Some fast-moving storms racing from the Pacific coast all the way to the Atlantic seaboard.
Not enough time to drop significant precipitation totals, but provide active weather as these storms travel cross-country. However,
that will all be changing toward the end of the week, and that'll be the last full weekend before Christmas. We will be looking at a storm system moving out of Canada that will deliver a stripe of snow from the northern plains into the Great Lakes region. That will also usher in colder air, and we'll see some cold weather moving in before the holidays from the northern plains and upper Midwest into the Northeast.
I'm Rod Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
This report brought to you by Cenex Fuels and Lubes.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90 Red Eye on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Yeah, when you just look at all the advancements in technology, and that's the thing that just gets me is, when we talk about automation and things like that, and every single generation, you'll find politicians that will reject technology.
Right. Yeah.
Every single one.
Yeah.
And every single one said it's going to destroy society. And if you look at technology, we see where society is today. Mm-hmm. We see the quality of life that we live today. And when you compare it to 100 years ago, remember FDR. We just talked about this on December 7th. Watch the History Channel at 24 hours after. He had a sinus infection. How did they treat sinus infections? Cocaine. That was it. Mm-hmm. And that just treated the symptoms. You think about it, that's primitive medicine.
Yeah. Right. Again, it's like we totally discount all the efforts and work put into creating great efficiencies through technology in our country's history. We just set all that aside.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Merry Christmas. 1 week away. 1 week away.
Crazy.
Get that Red Ryder BB gun.
Yeah.
Yes, 29th Street. That's a movie. Somebody said, what was that movie that you recommended? 29th Street. Not for the kids, though.
Right.
Too much cursing.
Yeah.
No sex, just too much cursing.
Yeah.
So it's a great movie, though.
All right.
It's a 20. That's my recommendation this year for anybody. Very, very rare movie, but you can find it on YouTube for free.
Good.
So
Good.
there you go. You know, I was thinking when we talk about technology that there are things in life that I never do that I am fascinated about. And I've talked about this before, like the people that got into van life, especially during COVID. And now a lot of them are getting out because it's like, well, you know, we thought it was just pure freedom in nature, and it's not because things break down.
Yeah.
And there are costs when you're on the road all the time. It's like,
Yeah.
well, there is nothing that's free.
Right.
And I love watching the people that live, near the train line in Alaska, and they get like supplied like every couple of weeks or whatever. And,
Right.
They live off the grid and,
Yeah.
it's hard to live off the grid. But I was thinking about how, a microcosm where technology is gone. So this one guy who's a van builder, and you think about, Class B van. And now it's expensive because you're got to put all this stuff in a very, very small area. And probably the average person can't afford to pay $230,000 for the van that I would want, that I will never get. But it's fascinating to see everything and it's all technology. And you think about, what is in it? Microwave, air conditioning, heating, refrigerator. This one I was looking at not only had a shower, but the recirculating shower. So it takes the water and it recirculates it, filters it, filters the water through a bunch of different filters, puts it through, the infrared? Not infrared.
No, it's the
what is
the
blue
laser, but it's the blue light.
The blue light.
Yeah.
The blue light.
Not the red one, but the blue one.
Ultraviolet.
Yeah.
Ultraviolet, and puts it back through the heater again and keeps recirculating so you can use 2 gallons of water to do it. And then you're like, yeah, but still you got to deal with the black tank. No. This one has so many lithium-ion batteries that, because this is one with no propane, that you've got the incinerating toilet.
Yeah.
So you just empty that like once a month because it burns it all to ashes. And then you've got solar panels on top.
I'm sure that doesn't come with a lot of maintenance.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, they all do. They all have maintenance. But it's a fact of just the technology that exists, that is just a microcosm of where we have gone as a society. And also in there, then you've got your TV. You've got your cell phone booster. You've got your what do you call it? The for the internet.
Wi-Fi?
No, the satellite link. Where you get constant
Modem?
Yeah, Wi-Fi modem, whatever. I mean, you can get you can get basically your internet service from the satellite, whatever, and you're completely and totally self-contained. You think about that kind of stuff. Now, again, the average person can't afford that yet, but that technology exists, and you compare it to what you had. Every time I fly, it never is normal for me. I mean, it's normal because I fly all the time to see Dad, but I'm still in awe every time. I mean, it would take, what you do in a half a day would take a year.
Yeah.
For people to do.
Yeah.
120, 130 years ago. Because nobody had cars back then. Maybe you could go on a train, but before trains existed, you go back 200 years ago, and nope, sorry, 250 years ago, sorry, taking you a year to cross the country. I appreciate that. I'm still in awe that I will start the day here, have a full day, do a bunch of different stuff, go to the airport late afternoon, get on a plane, and by the time it gets to be 10 o'clock at night, I'm sitting in New York talking to Dad.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just incredible what technology has brought to us. But they're the airlines, so we need to demonize them.
Yeah.
You're trying to make money off of baggage. How dare you make money? How dare you just don't have one fee for anything? How dare you charge more for more?
Yeah.
Because we complain about everything.
Well, again, we don't recognize the effort, the work put in to create the technology and efficiencies. All we do is scream for it to be better and all but free.
Yeah.
We want it to be cheap. And there is no appreciation for what it takes to actually get a product to you or a service. We talked about USPS and this discussion about privatizing the post office. Who's going to want it? Who are the buyers at the door? If it's somebody already in the field in terms of shipping, UPS, is UPS going to say, oh, it's a great business model if we tell all of our delivery people they're going to have to stop at every address 6 days a week? No. I don't know where it goes. It will naturally go away. It will change through attrition, but there is no one in the private sector or group of someone's waiting at the doorstep to buy it up, to invest it, because it's horribly inefficient. And those are the facts. It's, technology attrition somehow will bring about something. I don't know what the remedy will be. I don't know when that will be. But eventually,
supply and demand will always work.
Yep, it's going to be, and once it's all paperless, and I'm really kind of surprised that the tree huggers haven't already forced everybody by law to go paperless.
Think about it. California, you haven't banned junk mail yet,
right? You haven't banned postal delivery, and you can't, but you could see that happening. Attrition will be again, and likely generational. I don't know when that will happen, but there is no, when we talk about privatizing, privatize it to who? Nobody wants it for good reason. And you could say, well, turn it into 1 day a week. Nope. Politically, the kickback on that, even though demand is dropping, there is still widespread demand enough politically to the point of you can't mess with it. People talked about going to 4-day or 5-day delivery only.
Oh, people blew up.
Politically, you can't get that done.
By the way, we're talking about Trump the other day said that he'd like to privatize the USPS. That's some of the discussions.
Mm-hmm.
But we'd made the case the other day, and we'll make it again. Who do you simply say, okay, we need a private company to do first class mail, or do you say you need to buy, you can buy the post office, but you've got to take the debt and you've got to take the legacy costs.
Right.
Nobody's going to do that.
No
one's going to do that. Not even Elon Musk is going to do that. By the way, I know how I know Elon Musk won't do that, because the day after we talked about it, I went back home and I saw somebody had a post and said, privatize it, get rid of it, email. And he went like, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So where his head is at there. So that's not going to happen. You're not going to sit there and go, okay, who wants to bid on the post office? Now you've got to, I don't know if you privatize it, the government can't have any regulation in it, can they?
or they do, there's some kind of term that has to be agreed upon, and that's look, the business model alone is horribly inefficient.
Well,
But if you said, well, we're not going to change anything about the government mandate or what government rules would be in place over this, well, now everybody's running away from this.
right, but then it's not technically privatized.
Right. You're a government contractor.
Yeah. And so, but if you
We already
privatize it,
we have
means
those.
if you privatize it, somebody would have to buy the post office, all of its assets, all of its legacy costs,
Underfunded
all
mandates
of it,
that
all
are,
of it, yep, all of the
debt,
the debt, which I believe is like $144 billion right now,
which is more
Somebody
than
pointed
the
out the other day.
valuation of UPS.
Right.
Total valuation of UPS right now is $130 billion.
And so if you just say, well, we want somebody, no, we'll take the hit on the post office, so $144 billion, and you're telling somebody now you become the post office,
Right.
Well, but then they're not.
Why wouldn't you just
they're-
launch your own service? You wouldn't do. In fact, you
Right,
wouldn't do
right.
first-class mail, which is the most inefficient part of it. Having carriers go door to door, go to every address, essentially 6 days a week. Imagine a UPS or a FedEx saying, "Okay, all the drivers now have to stop at every address on their route, every address, 6 days a week." No, it's not going to happen. It's a horribly inefficient system, and we're stuck with it for the time being. The private sector doesn't want it.
It's an interesting discussion, though. And when when that story came out that Trump is talking about privatizing the United States Postal Service, our first question was, how?
Right, exactly.
And
There's just, again, you have to, because you have to believe that there would be, it requires you to believe that there would be buyers at the door. Even with the real estate part of it. You could sell the real estate, the service isn't going to happen. It's, again, you got to take the whole baby. There's no splitting the baby on this one.
Right. But if it's the whole baby with the rules and regulations from the government, I don't know anybody in their right mind who's going to take on that kind of debt.
Right.
With a contractual agreement that we will abide by whatever the government in power, Republican now, Democrat later on, tells us to do.
Right. Which, as the political winds change, would change.
Yeah. It's so.
Yeah, that's a huge no. I would advise you, if you've got $100 billion, to start another company, which would be a massive company, and you don't have to do the most inefficient part of the USPS.
Then you're not the USPS.
Exactly. That's the point. Who in their right mind would be doing it, try and figure out who the buyer would be. You have to take first-class mail out of the equation because it pollutes the entire business model.
Which then means your UPS
You're a
or
shipping
FedEx.
company. Yep.
Right.
And we already have those.
Right. So it just.
There is no demand. Like I said, right back to square one. Nobody's at the door wanting to buy it. So the talk of privatizing it, imagine that. Well, we'll just break it up into parts. Still, somebody has to take on the delivery of first-class mail.
And now I'm thinking of the classic line, you're going to fail because you don't believe in anything. I believe in the United States of America.
Mm-hmm.
Remember the Postman?
Mm-hmm.
That was the end of the Postman.
Yeah.
Kevin Costner.
Right. Now if people just believed in Kevin Costner. That'd be something.
You and I are the only people on the planet that love that movie, The Postman.
Mm-hmm.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Well, over the next couple of days, I think you're going to see massive I'd be surprised, I'll put it this way, if you don't see massive Republican infighting over this continuing resolution.
Oh, well, you have. In fact, I just read a post on X by Senator Rand Paul calling out Speaker Johnson over in the House, saying he's a weak man. And, this is going to happen, again for the conservatives, for the handful of fiscal conservatives on Capitol Hill. This is always going to be the fight. And there's always going to be this, again, tendency by both parties, plenty of people in both parties, to spend more and more. Just keep it going. Just keep it going.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.